Om Abhyasam Vairagyam Tannirudaha Tatra Stitau Yatno Bhyasaha Satu Dirghakala Nairantarya Satkara Sevita Drita Bhumihi Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Authentic self-discipline, joined to dispassion, successfully destroys the unwanted negative thought vibrations in the mind. When these two, practice and constancy, get combined, the effect is called sadhana, spiritual practice. But this practice becomes firm only when maintained and observed for a very long time, and with a devout and positive attitude. That alone is self-effort, which springs from right understanding, and which duly manifests clearly in one's own heart, which has been exposed to the teachings of the scriptures and the sacred presence of the holy ones. Om, peace, peace, peace. For in them shines Brahman. May that Brahman protect us. May that Brahman sustain us. And may Brahman illumine our thinking consciousness. May we not find fault with each other, with the world, and with the teachings. And may what we study be a source of inspiration to us eternally. Om, peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, and may peace be unto all. Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, Tat Sat. Namaste, everyone here, and those looking on from other locations, our far-flung SRV Sangha from West Coast, East Coast, Europe, Hungary, Iceland, India, people looking in, sometimes not on the exact moment that we are broadcasting, but as I hear hundreds and hundreds more look in over time to these Sunday classes, also to our Saturday satsangs and God blogs, which went off nicely yesterday. So we keep up with the subject of this class series called Constancy, or Perseverance. And it was definitely one of Holy Mother's, our Sri Sharda Devi, our Divine Mother's favorite qualities in spiritual life. So we want to look into that, and using some of her teachings, we can do that. And I just chanted from two sutras from Patanjali, the Yoga Sutras, out of the first pada and the second pada. So through the four padas of Patanjali, he's named, Patanjali's got his eight-limbed yoga named after him, a rare distinction. So over the four padas of the Yoga Sutras, which is called Raja Yoga, by the way, he brings in again this important premise and qualification of constancy, also call that perseverance. And that's what we want to talk about for the next 3 Sundays before our visit to the mainland in early September for a retreat on the Divine Mother herself, and using the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam for the first time in its entirety, because it's this thick, literally. But we will use it as the main focus of our teachings on the Divine Mother. I'm still going to have to look through it again and find out if I can extract from it a chart or two that can quintessentialize some of the teachings of the Divine Mother of the universe. Sri Durga Devi, Sri Kali Devi, Bhuvaneshwari, she appears in many forms, speaking to the gods, the asuras, the incarnations, the rishis and yogis in the scripture of hers, where we've been likely and apt to call it the one main mother scripture of the world. because of its depth and its volume. And because even in India, besides one other small 700 mantra scripture called the Chandi or the Durga Saptasati, that those two are the only mother scriptures dedicated to Divine Mother that could qualify as a scripture. Of course, there are other instances of appearances of Holy Mother, Divine Mother in other religions, such as Catholicism, Mother Mary, and Fatima in Islam and so forth. But here we have scriptures coming. So India, for one thing, is very well known for these revealed scriptures. That is, they tend to emphasize and accent the non-dual element at the foundation of everything, rather than just allow things to kind of come to the surface and make a show of themselves, like waves on an ocean. They say, well, where did this come from? And then where are the depths of it? So this topic, unlike some of the topics we've had in the last 2 or 3 seminars and the last 2 retreats, is rather a simple one, just about teaching about constancy and perseverance. But it does show how something so simple can be so crucial to success in spiritual life, that people are falling off the path and betraying their original vows to Guru, to Dharma, to their Sangha, to their religious path that might have taken them even lifetimes to find those things. And then because of this lack of constancy or this wavering, would fall away from the path and maybe even from religion itself. I think that's definitely the main responsibility for that is in the seeker and the aspirant. But it's not like there aren't other influences that play into that, like the lack of dharmic upbringing by from the ancestor realm. We'll maybe mention that a little bit today about transmigration. That transmigration could be said to put a stop to constancy, because you're taking a break to go to heaven or something. But what you want to do is transcend earth and heaven both. What to speak of the suffering of hell. So that's one point to make. Maybe another point to make is that religion itself is at fault for falling into a shallow level of what they call conventional religion, or what Swami Vivekananda called religious shopkeeping when he came here. He coined a lot of very excellent phrases, both positive and negative, for the task of spreading Vedanta to the world at large, which he began there when he came to the West in 1893. As far as we're concerned, he brought this great darshan called Vedanta to us, the Anta of the Vedas, that is the last portion of the Vedas, which were the most mature and most developed. Those are known by the name Upanishad. Interesting word there. Upa could be like teacher, like an Upaguru. Ni would mean a knot. Sad would mean truth or existence. So find a teacher who will untie the knot of ignorance and give you this truth that you've been searching for. In India, they would say for many lifetimes, you might have been on the trail of this. So basically, there's no real comparison between what the world can offer and what spiritual life can offer. The spiritual life offers truth and freedom. So if those are compared side by side with pleasantries and insouciance and wealth and fame and so forth, then there can be no comparison that at some time people wake up and they decide that they want to be free of all those things, because the dualities are always cycling. The 3 gunas are always cycling. And life itself is always cycling from birth to death to rebirth. So birth, life, rebirth, and death, and then starting with another rebirth. The Buddhists are quite into explaining that in terms of the 12 nidanas, they call it. It's this chain of transmigration, they call it. So all the Indian darshanas, Vedanta, of course, included, put their mind on this. The rishis and the yogis, they're realized souls. They put their mind on these things and come up with these fine solutions, methods, and then some practices that are a part of those methods. But then the self-exertion or the self-discipline is going to be up to the person who is fortunate enough to find those amidst religious convention, amidst social convention, amidst ancestor life, and seeking after hollow happiness and so forth. If they do happen to find these scriptures and these methods prescribed in the scriptures, then they're going to want to follow them. And that's where the final test or challenge comes up. Can I maintain my resolve? Can I remember my original intention when I found the truth when I was younger? Hopefully you find it young. We know, quoting from Father of Yoga at the beginning of this class, that he himself said that there are 5 types of yogis, and the first one of those types that never reaches the goal, possibly could be say without the direct intervention of some higher grace, is that one who's born with a desire for freedom but never follows through on it. So you say the beauty of nature when you're young can be very inspiring. Sunsets and oceans and mountains, treks, hiking, mountain climbing, things that you do with your time when you're young, because your mind is still rather unclouded by work and money and children and family and the things that press in on so many people. So at that point, then there can be an inspiration to be free by hiking, by surfing, by looking at sunsets and mountains, by meditating, by discovering the Zen Buddhist monastery down the road and having your first meditation. Experiences that people when they were young here in America have had and have been led towards. Then as time passes, then the fruits of spiritual life being so rare and hard to attain, then it's quite easy to fall off the path. And we see that happening a lot in America. For instance, in the last satsang, last week's God blogs, we were talking, Sri Ramakrishna was saying about how meditation is not enough. I used to teach that a lot even before I came upon him saying that, just by looking at the West. Meditation is not enough. You have to put austerity with it. So to sit and quiet the body, it's hard for some people. It's not that hard for an introspective person. For a Jnana yogi or a Gyan yogi, they pretty much know that if they don't quiet the mind, they're not going to get the fruits of meditation or study of scripture. They're just not going to come. So they'll be willing to sit and quiet the mind. He says, when these 2 great practices get combined, it's called a sadhana, he says. So, I mean, I thought about the Yoga Sutras, about the importance of abhyasa, because Sri Krishna teaches it in the Gita. It's called constant practice, abhyasa yoga, the yoga of constant practice. You just don't all of a sudden see a path that appeals to you, and then far from just even entertaining the path and the teacher for a week or a few months or even a few years, you make a commitment to that path if you find it to be true and to the point, and then you stay with it for a lifetime. I would say that if you look at monastic communities and if you were able to see the monks inside of the monks, who they really are, you'd see that these were people who spent whole lifetimes practicing it in a previous lifetime. They're not called to wife, family, money, success, goods, lands, pleasures, resources, any egotistic pursuit. It's not in them, so they immediately go towards monasticism. There has to be a reason for that. That doesn't mean that people who are not caused to monasticism don't also have the desire to be free, but just use the overall classification of a yogi or a yogini, a man and a woman who's born in any country before they're householders and before they become monks, then they have this samskara back inside of them, to find a path and to set their foot on it. According to Sri Ramakrishna, that's the reason you were born. And all these other reasons fall quickly to the background. But if they don't find that calling that is there, usually in your youth, then quite often you see it gets covered over, and then wife, lands, and children become the ashanatrayam in Tantra. It means the triple bondage. So those very things, same things, spouse, wealth, progeny, those very same things can be used dharmically to take yourself towards the goal of human existence, or otherwise, in the negative side, they can become a triple bondage that keep you from it. So in this class series, then we'll be looking at the quality of constancy and perseverance, but there's no way that we can avoid looking at inconstancy or lack of perseverance as we do so, since that seems to be ingrained in Western culture too, and maybe in the world now. It's a kind of tendency that when you get tired of wealth and pleasures and parties and successes and everything that's going on in the world, like politics, which we were talking about yesterday morning, elections and all that kind of thing, the devotees or the aspirants get, that's where you find them coming out of the woodwork. They'll begin to people the rare climbs of devotees of God, and become these rare individuals that love God first and foremost, almost biblical style of saying it. And they'll remember that from lifetime to lifetime. And that can happen. They can go toward monasticism and take vows, or they can go to householder and take dharmic vows. At that point, everything in front of them is beginning to express itself as nothing other than Brahman. So probably you could say that one thing would be responsible for not having such a vision. That's inconstancy or indetermination. We used to call it that in the early days of SRV. So what's wrong with people that they're not practicing more, they're not dedicating more, they don't have the stick-to-itiveness? And we said that's indeterminacy. They haven't determined their path and decided to stick to it to the end. And it could be the case that it can have a positive side to it. Oh, I'm really into this path and this guru, and I found out that they weren't what they were supposed to be along the way. So I had to stop that particular path, but it shouldn't make me stop my seeking for freedom. Freedom is going to have a path to it. Yesterday we were saying you open a nadi to samadhi, and somebody liked the rhyme of that. That's you open a channel to your own freedom by finding a path and taking up a method and then practicing. So I think it was even one person here in the room yesterday said, isn't that those 4 precious boons that we talk about? First was a human body, and then was a desire to be free, if you want to put that second instead of last. So that's the way I'm talking right now, that, in the body you found out, well, this isn't all that fun. There's birth, growth, disease, old age, decay, and death to pay here. There's lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, shame, grief to pay here. And there's the 5 kleshas to pay here. There's the 9 antarayas to pay here. Look into the philosophies and you'll find out that they've noted them all and listed them as a sort of negative side to life in relativity, life in the body. So with that being said, then they point you out. They point you out to a good teacher, and then the hopefully the faithfulness and friendliness of your own mind. See, that was Holy Mother's teaching. You can have a human body, human birth, which is going to be necessary, Sorry, all you animal rights activists, but we won't be agreeing with you that animals can get enlightened. They have to take on a human form. This is how even sometimes the gods can't get enlightened, but the humans can get enlightened. That's been proven in so many cases. So when the human body is used in the right way, in a positive way, then you'll have this desire for freedom spring up in the human mind. And that mind has to be on your side, as Holy Mother said. That mind has to be your friend. And a teacher will come upon you'll come upon a teacher that has his mind as his friend or her friend, like Holy Mother. And you'll see how much at one they are inside themselves, that all the aspects of the body, of the being, the body, the five senses, the mind, the intellect, even the ego, and the chitta, the thoughts, have all been brought together into one focus. And then they'll meditate upon Brahman, God, Allah, Yahweh. They'll have these high experiences in whatever religion, whatever ideal they choose, with form and beyond form, both. And then they'll become constant in their devotion for both God and higher truth. See? Those two become one thing. So freedom and truth were the watchwords of Vivekananda when he came here. His two favorite words. So we sometimes say he passed away into Mahasamadhi on July 4th to sort of teach us all here in America that there was a higher kind of freedom that many of us were missing out on when we talked about wars and politics and violence and things like that. And becoming bound and getting free. The soul's always and ever free, he said. So now we have to realize that that's within us. That very self-same soul is within us, and it's an indivisible soul. It can't be divided like our bodies and minds are, like our religions are, like our countries are, like our politics are. There's no division in that one thing that's called the soul or Atman. Everything else has divisions, right? Even your consciousness, although it's one, seems to have divisions. They're called waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. And they're also called enlightened and unenlightened, ignorant and unawakened and awakened. So, but when you go to truth, then you'll find out, and that's the one undivided thing, non-dual truth. So Sri Ramakrishna said at one time, here's my virtue, here's my vice, Mother, take them both and give me pure love for thee. You know, here's good and here's bad. Take them both and give me pure love for thee. Here's my merit, here's my demerit. Take them both and give me pure love for me. He thought he went through all these dualities, but when he came to truth, he couldn't say it. He couldn't use it because there's no such thing as untruth. He couldn't say, take your truth and the untruth, take them both and give me pure love, because truth is undivided. So that's what we're talking about, that we need to reach. And the one thing that's going to trip us up is inconstancy or indeterminacy, lack of follow through, steadiness on the path. Sthiti pragnasya, in the Gita, Sri Krishna mentions that a half dozen times at least to Arjuna on the battlefield. Sthiti, steady, pragnasya, wisdom. You have to have steady wisdom. You have to have steady commitment. And it has, as Patanjali says here, it has to become maintained and observed for a very long time, and with a devout and positive attitude. So looking for a few slokas in the Yoga Sutras, I found these two about practice that I favored highly, that they have to be exposed to the teachings of the revealed scriptures, have to be looked upon and observed and attenuated by a good acharya or a good teacher. India is very big on the guru, as you know, which is not very popular in these times and getting less popular. harder and harder to be a guru if you are one. Maybe it's just better not to call yourself a guru like Sri Ramakrishna did, and just give out the experiences of the teachings as you see them. Whatever the case may be, there are holy nuns that you can find on sacred pilgrimage. We'll look into that when we look at some of these charts. Maybe we should get started on that so we make some headway in this first class towards understanding the import of constancy. Let's look then at attainment of enlightenment here. But first of all, whenever I teach about her, I always think about the songs that we offer to her. So let's sing one of those. Sing a verse to her, Divine Mother, the Holy Mother, Sri Sharda Devi. Mata Shama Sundari Ramachandra Pituge Jagadamba Bhavatarini Uterile Navade Agahana Krishna Saptami Dina Punita Gururva Shashada Kaparama Karunamaya Avatar Karunamaya Avatar. O bestower of all that is auspicious, the granter of peace, the destroyer of sorrow, delusion, and ignorance. Sri Sharda Devi, the Holy Mother, graced with a celestial form and a pure and broad intellect, filled with truth, incarnated in the tiny Indian village of Jarampati, naturally inhabited by pious people, set in hallowed lands that are always pleasing to the mind, green, rich, with fertile soil and vegetation. At the auspicious moment of her birth, hundreds of conch shells sounded across the 7 worlds, and millions of melodious songs were sung to her. The celestial beings, the gods, the seers, sages, and human beings, as well as the gods of the Vedas and the Puranas, all offered salutations and chanted hymns in praise of her. Karunamaya Avatar, Karunamaya Avatar, Karunamaya Avatar. When the Holy Mother was alive in the body, as instanced by this beautiful song, which was sung and composed many decades after she passed away in the 1920s, she was, of course, the divine consort of Sri Ramakrishna and the Divine Mother of the universe, brought to the world in this Kali Yuga for the express purposes of showing how all beings can live a divine life. Which was very necessary inside of what we now see as one of the greatest spiritual organizations in the world, the Ramakrishna order, is that so many divine monks, Ishvarakotis, Vibhutis, perfected souls like Swami Vivekananda came in line with Sri Ramakrishna, but he brought Holy Mother with him too, and she manifested herself for all the householders who could then see how to live a divine life while in the body. So she becomes then the mother of the Sangha, Jagat Janani. She's the mother of the worlds. She's also the mother of the Ramakrishna order. And here at SRV, she's our mother too. And we look to her for teachings to clarify. And when we do, we find out that she's very much in line with this idea of perseverance. Sometimes she calls it the 5 Ps. Maybe we can look at that first because that will broach the subject nicely for us. What are the 5 Ps in English? Patience, perseverance, there's perseverance listed, purification, practice, and one of her favorite teachings, peace of mind. May you have peace of mind first and foremost. That's necessary for anything. So for this simple chart, I just put up some quotes from her that ease us into the necessity and some difficulty of having to keep up our spiritual practice day by day, lifetime by lifetime if necessary, until we reach the goal of human existence. In terms of patience, which of course is akin to perseverance, you have to have patience to have perseverance. She says, perhaps one performs japa of the mantra in one lifetime, then patiently does some more in the next. In this way, and with such perseverance, the soul can certainly gain freedom from bondage in the end. So she encourages us, but makes sure that we know perseverance is needed. What did she say about it? She had a story that was very beautiful. A farmer carried a weak young calf from the barn to the field every day. This became a habit. Later, people were shocked to see the man carrying a grown bull to the field. All this was the result of perseverance. So as the cow got more weight on it, and it was a habit, he just started picking it up and carrying it, and his body and muscles adjusted to the increasing weight of the bull. So pretty soon he was doing a miraculous thing that people couldn't even believe their eyes when they saw. So she heard this story about the Old West here in America, and liked that story very much because it was an illustration of perseverance, how one keeps at something constantly. Down there under purification, she says, chit shuddhi means the mind that constantly thinks of divine reality. Pure mind is God. And of course, she got that teaching from Sri Ramakrishna, or they both agreed upon it when they found out. That's called chit shuddhi. And in the scriptures, that's called one of the most valued of all qualities of the wise, chit shuddhi. If you have pure mind, then it's like having God living inside of you. It's like we just said, if your mind becomes your own friend, then you've got that perfect combination of pure mind and pure thought. And that's been called in other religions Buddha mind. It's been called in non-duality no mind. So that's purified of all of its overlays, its conditionings, its habits, except maybe the habit of perseverance. And therefore, you find a being with this kind of amazing ability to see clearly, and even in an age where they call the Kali Yuga, where everything is so foggy and people aren't able to see the truth. About practice, then, she follows up the 4th P and says, where is the competent student who can understand spiritual instruction? Without such fitness, teachings will prove futile. So back to our four boons, right? You can have a human body, you can have a good teacher, and you can have desire to be free, but if you don't have the faith of your own, oneness with your own mind, then teachings given to you by that teacher while you're in the human body could prove futile. And so many beings then fall from the path because they haven't qualified themselves. You could say, even in terms of qualification, you should stick with the necessity of gaining qualification for a long time. So perseverance comes in front of everything along the path. Oh, you want this? Make sure you do it. You seek it for a long time. Oh, you want that? Seek it for a long time. Reach the penultimate or ultimate goals. Make sure that you'll be sure to find out that took a long time to attain it. That you want freedom from doubt. Make sure you seek it for a long time, because doubt accompanies the mind into later stages of enlightenment or early realization. Around peace of mind, I just found these two quotes and selected them. Work done in tamas and rajas brings karma to bear. So peace of mind and the friendship of your own mind are going to be very difficult to attain if you let tamas, heaviness, slothfulness, depression, it's called nowadays too, and rajas both, too much activity into your mind, then there's going to be karma to bear. To quote Krishna, all work done in tamas and rajas brings karma. Sri Ram said that also, taught that also in the Ramayana. So we want to make sure that these three gunas, what we mentioned early on in class, that we talked about at satsang yesterday, are attenuated. Tamas and rajas, are, that is slothful and restlessness, are going to have to go. Sattva can be held for a while. That's balance. So if you can destroy tamas and rajas and keep sattva, then you won't have to forfeit that for a while. I say if you keep sattva for long enough time, it tends to mellow and become pure sattva, like this chit shuddhi, and you have chit sattva. And a person with a sattva guna that's purified will use their time to study the scriptures, to meditate on the Lord. You see, people with just sattva will use their time for seeking pleasures and enjoying. That's the downside of the sattva guna. Too much balance, makes you non-committed to higher life. It weakens the fabric of human character. But pure sattva will not do that. It'll give you this desire for tapas. I must do austerity while I'm in a human body. I found out that meditation is not even enough. But if I put austerity to it, my meditations all of a sudden become deep, vast, wide, high, profound. I heard the Om. I saw the light. You see people all of a sudden when they add austerity into the picture. So you can't just sit. There are people who have sat in caves for hundreds of years and lifetimes and never got the vision of Mother. As soon as they did an austerity to her, she came running. What was that? You wanted my child? I bestow my grace upon you. What do you want? Peace of mind. Oh, you need peace of mind first and foremost. Very good. See, what do you want after that? Nirvasana, she says. Freedom from desire. You don't want desires to come in and spoil. Sattva has desire, you see. Pure sattva is getting rid of desire. It's beginning to burn it away, the seeds for it. So, therefore, you need peace of mind first and foremost, you see. So that's the beautiful teaching there with Holy Mother. And since she's talking about practice and time, she says here, take for a long time, you want to do these things. Let's go immediately to this other chart and see what she thinks are the three main factors in the attainment of enlightenment on the path to enlightenment. There they are listed: karma, practice, and time. So about practice, about karma, basically, number one, she says, human being, today it is, tomorrow it is not. No one will accompany a person after death. Only action, good and bad, will follow. Yes, even after death. So you might say this is one of the statements of the illumined soul that absolutely proves that there's life after death. If you had doubts that there's what they call life after death, then just listen to that statement. Something's going to follow you. What is that? Karma. And that's the reason why you have life after death and come back to rebirth. So we'll look at that in a minute in a chart called fascination with the reincarnation process. Fascination with transmigration is what I called it. So I said this is one of the interruptions to steadiness, is that we're fascinated with our next lifetime. We're already building it as we live this lifetime. And as Buddha said, O architect of Maya, he used the word Mara. O architect of Mara, I have finally seen thee. I will not build any more houses here. I won't build houses of stone. I won't build houses of wood. I won't build houses of wise conception. I won't build houses of flesh and bone. I'm tearing down the main rafter, he says. It's in the Dhammapada, beautiful quote about how he saw the tendency of karma in us, in the collective mind particularly, to build more houses for the future, like the ancestors are doing on earth, and then on earth going back to heaven. So this whole round of birth, life, and death is in a kala chakra. It's a wheel of time. What does he say about time? Kala. What you want to do is use it to recall life's true purpose. Use it to go on retreat and pilgrimage. Use it to seek out a spiritual path. But remember, once you find it, and it's a good one, stick with it. Find an adept guru. Do the same with that teacher. And I think a better word in this day and age than guru is acharya. If you can find an acharya, then that's somebody who's very deeply steeped in the scriptures. And you'll bypass all of these other pseudo-gurus and half-gurus and inferior gurus. You find an acharya, they've studied the scriptures, they have the wisdom, and they can transmit it to you. That's a very good sign and a good advice for people of the day. Find a good acharya. Select an Ishtam, that's the chosen ideal. Yes, it's true, and we had even with our own founder, Lex Hickson, the SRV associations, was steering people to different religions. Sometimes you'd find a person that was raised in Judaism or raised in Christianity, and tell them, well, why aren't you following the religion that you were born into? I can't find what I'm looking for there. So then he would open up, he would take him to see Dalai Lama, or take him to see Sheikh Musafir of Islam, or take him to different places and expose the soul to some other teachers from other different religions. And if it took inside of their head and they found that religion, then you can see that religion of all kinds is just a doorway into the one universal truth, right? They all speak truth, but they also have a conventional side to them. All religions have a conventional side, and that's what causes people to fall away from the path when they don't get what they want out of religion. Religion should be the first thing to serve you in this world, after you have basic food and clothing and a place to live, as they say. Then religion should come to you and say, here's what there is to offer. Here's the philosophical and religious fare that we have to offer. And we know by our adherence to India's darshanas and various religions and sampradayas and so forth, that there's just so much to select from there inside of India. Buddhism came from inside of India. And there's Sufis of the Islamic tradition had a long relationship with India inside. the Muslims themselves inside of India, and Zoroastrianism and Jainism. I mean, you find out that these all had homes in India and grew like plants in India's soil. And so this is a straightforward proof that you can go to these pathways, find maybe the one that you're meant to be on, and find the truth through it. Just have to be constant. But I got a little sidetracked here when I said, when I read her quote there, you see, and make sure that only action and good and bad will follow you even after death, right? Go back to that. So it means that there's karma to pay for actions you did now. And so you want to make sure that you have time to pay that karma off, to neutralize it, to attenuate it, to destroy it, to dissolve it outright if you can. So because it's in the mind first, and it got there by action, and then it comes back out through for actions in the next lifetime. So it's a cycle that you want to be on top of all the time. It's like passing water through a filter. If existence is water and it becomes fouled over lifetimes, parts of it become dirtied, and then you want to pass it through the filter of practice and austerity. For how long? A very long time. So that that filter has a long time to purify the water of existence. So you will come out into that one lifetime where you'll get free. If you ask me, how many lifetimes should you have? 3. 1, to be born, find out this world's a dream. 2, to be born and fulfill all desires that you have for it. And 3, 1, to reach enlightenment at the end, so that you have a conscious death and you give up this world forever, never come back to it again. So it's that third aspect of it is what the seers are doing constantly. See, the realized souls come back, they take one lifetime. They're called videha muktis. They don't take the body ever again. They just have that one offering to people in form to help them realize what freedom, true freedom really is, like Swami Vivekananda on the 4th of July. And it pretty much proves itself in time. So this penultimate one here is take final refuge in God and fulfill all desires in the Dharma. So this is what you'll be working on for, say, a series of 3 lifetimes. 1 lifetime to hear about the truth, 1 lifetime to realize it, and 1 life to have a conscious death, finalize all your karma. So this is how karma and kala get put together. These are all teachings that I did a synopsis of from her words, what she spoke to us when she was in the body. So you can see these are all just points that she has made at different kinds of people at different times. What does she say then about sadhana inside of the aspect of purifying your karma over time? She says, purify the soul via worship. So that soul, of course, we're calling the mind. This mind you want to get on your side. And basically, do purification of that. The senses back to the mind all has to be purified so you can have this chit shuddhi she's just talking about here. You need this pure mind. That's a very high thing. So if it's not pure, then there's something, some karma to pay now and later. And you need to take time, you see, to address that. Practices will do that. Sadhana will do that. So back to Patanjali's first sloka I read at the beginning of this first class. Authentic self-discipline combined or joined to dispassion will successfully quell the negative thoughts in the head. In yoga, those are called klista, vrittis. Vrittis are vibrations of the mind. And there are some thoughts in the mind that are aklista vrittis. They're not negative. However, they're not yet fully lit up yet either. Aklista vrittis could be sattva, you see, kind of thing. Well, I have a lot of good thoughts in my mind, but I'm kind of attached to them, see. But Sri Ramakrishna said, take my virtue and my vice, both. He didn't just say, take my vice and give me pure love. He said, take my virtue and my vice. So if you have virtue, you're going to have vice. You have to get beyond both the dualities. It's a very key teaching in India. This is called dvandva mohena, two, delusion by twos. You're put to death by twos. See, your mind's best intentions are put to death by dualities. Either put to death by negative karma, or put to death by habit. See, I have a habit of flipping from good to bad, from virtue to vice, from pleasure to pain, and unfortunately, karma-wise, from life to death. So this is why we want to put to death transmigration itself, put to death death itself. I've received a command from my Divine Mother that death must die. Ram Prasad sings in one of his beautiful songs. I've received a command from Divine Mother that death must die. So my teacher, Swami Sheshananda, when he sang that song, he would give further explanation, and he'd say, that means put death in its own grave. And he'd get a few nervous laughs when he said that to his congregation in Portland, Oregon, those days. And then, make fear afraid of itself. And if somebody complained, oh, I fear death, well, make fear afraid of itself then. Because when you attain this chit shuddhi, pure mind, when you attain constancy that gets you the rewards of your spiritual practice, when sadhana becomes fructified, and the fruits of spiritual life, as rare and as almost invisible as they are, come to you, then where will your fear be? Then where will your doubt be? Then where will your brooding mind be? Then where will death be? They'll be gone, gone, utterly gone. And the next morning you'll wake up and say, my delusion is gone, gone, utterly gone. Because in the face of this indivisible truth, it's like a fire that can't be quenched. Nobody can hide a burning fire in a cotton cloth. Another song of India. Nobody can hide a blazing fire in a cotton cloth. It just makes it swell more. So this fire of intelligence that she's asking us to build and to stoke. You see, it's a good word, stoke. Remember the surfers used to get out of the water here at these surf spots and say, I'm stoked. And I said, yeah, I wish you were. I used to think that. I wish you were really stoked the way we mean it in spiritual life. Not just excited, but senses and, water and so forth. But the fire of your intelligence got stoked at some point. So purify the mind by worship. So if you just sit around all the time, my mind isn't that pure, I'm sorry. You apologize for it, you accept it as a fact. So get up and start doing the worship. Who says that? Sri Krishna in the Gita, the best austerity for the body is worship. Not fasting and things like that. He doesn't recommend that. He recommends better and better food, better prasad for you. But he said, as far as a real true austerity goes, bowing down in front of the altar is that. Because that's when the ego gets struck down. What am I doing by bowing down to this image? Has been on the mind of so many people. And it's driven them away from religion, has stopped their path because they thought that they were bowing down to an insentient piece of matter. See? But worship is not that at all. It's not image worship. It's not idol worship for sure. It's seeing that everything's an expression of Brahman and then worshiping that through everything. Through the incense stick, through the candle, through the flower, remember? Pushpe, pushpe, mahapushpe, pushpe sambhava, Pushpachaya Vakirne Cha Hum Fat Swaha. We were talking about Pushpa, the offering of flowers to the devotees with a Kurma mudra. That's a turtle, by the way. See him? Put a flower inside the turtle and offer it to the mother and watch her, how delighted she'll be with you. And what are you going to have to do to feel her delight? Wait, time, right? And then how much time? As long as it takes, because that's called constancy. You can't just worship for a week or have an altar for a year in your house and expect everything to come running to your lap, especially high-minded qualities like spiritual fruits. They don't come as usual. That's why you see so many old rishis and old yogis, elderly people who have been doing this their whole life. It's like a bull rider. There's this bull that got picked up as a calf and took to the fence. Every day build his muscles. There are bull riders out there who've been doing bull riding for decades. So go ask them what it's like to lift a bull or ride a bull. The same way with rishis and yogis and acharyas and so forth. How long have you been at this? I saw my teacher, Swami Sheshanandaji Maharaj, peace and blessings be upon him. When I saw him when I was in my 20s, he was in his 80s. He'd been doing it for 60 years already, at least. And as I lived with him, took hand with him, took mantra diksha with him, he went on another 20 years doing it. So this is real perseverance and constancy. It's not even a teaching anymore. I must be constant. It's already an accomplished fact. That's where I want you to be. I want you to be that constancy is already an accomplished fact. I would never give up this path for anything. You couldn't torture me. There are people who are so attached to their path that if another country invaded them, they were tortured. They wouldn't give it up because they couldn't. How can I give up what I am? Kill me. I won't come back with a lot of karma next time. That's one thing I can tell you, but you will. So please don't kill me. I don't want you to have any bad karma. See. Anyway, sadhana, the first austerity, Krishna mentioning it in the Gita, it's one of the greatest austerities, is that worship. Worship and purify the soul through worship. Then strengthen the body and mind via yoga. Then hone the intellect via study and memorize the scriptures. You see there right away you're going through different phases of yoga in those three points. Then memorize the scriptures would be that fourth, jnana yoga. I would say that meditation is not enough. Austerity is good, but what is a better austerity than worship? Studying the scriptures, swadhyaya. Isn't that why Patanjali put Ishvara Pranidhana, Swadhyaya, and Tapas as Kriya Yoga, right? We had that one class, all of you might remember, some weekends ago, had one off class we did, was about the true and authentic Kriya Yoga. So isn't pretty much what she's saying here follows the father of yoga perfectly. She's talking about worship, Ishvara Pranidhana, she's talking about study the scriptures, Jnana Yoga for the intellect, and she's talking about tapas, to austerity, to make it all enriched, to make it all blossom. If you just meditate or you just study without that austerity, that tapas, it doesn't have any verve to it. It doesn't have any electricity put into it. Austerity puts the electricity into it. And I've been seeking the vision of light, and I've been trying to hear the divine sound of Om for decades. But the minute I did austerity, they both came to me. See, because that was placing electricity into it, immediacy. So constancy and immediacy together would be a perfect combination of qualities. Don't put off to the future what can be accomplished today. Is that what they say? In spiritual life, that's twice as important, if not more. Bring that immediacy to your practice right away, and then keep it constant with that immediacy intact, you see. That's like how you want to do the mantra, right? Just mindless or go to sleep or so forth. You want to bring that kind of immediacy to your practice of mantra. That's why she talked about it here. Practice japa of the holy mantra. So that's what you want to do here. And then perceive God with form. And then realize the formless Brahman. God is with form, God is beyond form, both. So those two truths will turn your vision of religion into universal vision. You'll see that God has form and is present in all forms, more in some forms than in other, no less, but necessarily present in form as the essence behind all form. And then it has a formless aspect to it too. And you want to nurture both those sides. All right. She says, through spiritual practices, that's the sadhana, the ties of past karma are cut asunder. So much for karma, right? Sadhana will take care of it, she's saying. But the realization of God cannot be achieved without ecstatic love for him. Do you know the significance of japa and other spiritual practices? By these, the dominance of the sense organs is subdued. It's just like saying people are attached to objects, and until they get rid of their attachment to objects, they won't see God. The objects are an expression of God, but they won't see that either. See, they'll just see the object and the pleasure they get from it. But that attachment will keep the veiling power, as we were talking about yesterday, in front of their eyes. Avarana Shakti, it's called. And that will turn into a form of Vikshepa Shakti, my attachment to that vision of limited awareness around an object without seeing the divine in it, turns to a distortion in my mind. And that causes this karma that I'm going to need to do away with the austerity of sadhana. Nothing could, in your mind, karma-wise or fear-wise or doubt-wise, can exist in the atmosphere of true austerity, tapas. And that immediacy I was just talking about is, you'll sit up one day and say, I've been brooding about this for too long. I want it gone. And you'll concentrate on it and you'll have a moment where it will be gone. And that will prove to you that you can make it go away, but you have to be constant in it. You see, you have to hold it for a while till it becomes a habit. So you can be enlightened at this moment for a moment. You can see your teacher, great soul. Wow, I can do that, and then walk away. And how did he do that? You see. So you've got to have that power of holding and expanding. Om apyantu mamangani vak pranaschakshu shotramatra balamindriyani cha sarvani. All of those things have to be expanded in their capacities in no Brahman, including your love of the object. That's called sampragata samadhi. It's called savitarka samadhi. You reason away with using the object as a proof of existence first. And then you go beyond the object and you reason about how the object once existed, but now it doesn't anymore. It's like saying the object once was in my attention, but now it's not taking up my attention anymore. I can see how I can do away with it. Now I can go on to sananda and sasmita samadhis. which are graded samadhis that Father of Yoga here wants you to have by combining constant practice with detachment, you see. Abhyasa, vairagya. So vairagya is detachment, constant practice, abhyasa. So if I put those two together, that can quell the negative thoughts of my mind. And that's what's called real practice. If the yogis, the acharyas see you doing that, there's a good soul. Come closer. I'll teach you this art, and you can be realized in this very lifetime. But if he sees others with just some detachment, well, they're not constant yet. Or you see some others with just trying to practice, but they haven't got that that idea of immediacy and intensification in them. Not quite ready for those souls yet. But when you have that combination, they're constant and they're detached. That's how to get rid of the klista vrittis and how to go beyond the aklista vrittis. Yogic language, vrittis are just vibrations of the mind. That's what all of this is about, vibrations of the mind. All of this came about by the mind's thinking process. When you go to sleep tonight, it'll all go away because your mind's not thinking anymore. That happens to millions of people. And that's called Maya. So she says here about karma vinasha. How do you destroy Maya? How do you destroy karmas? Awaken to the insidious presence of Maya. That is, the last thing we left off with was realize God with form and formless, right? So if you've worked your way to acknowledging, admitting, agreeing with the seers on this siddhanta, this conclusion that God is both with form and beyond form, then what's going to be the next step? You know, I need to take the form of Maya out of God with form, because Maya is foisting a covering power, a distorting power, and I want it all to be revelatory power. This I be single, you shall know the truth, he said. Or utkramantam stitim vyapindun janam, Krishna says in the Gita. The jnana chakshu has to awaken in order to see the Lord moving about in everything. Right now, he's moving around on 4 feet, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and samadhi. But you have to see the Lord moving in that way through consciousness at all levels. So this presence of Maya stands in the way. And it's insidious at that point. Why do I see that? Vivekananda should say. We Vedantists ought to be able to look at anything that's disturbing or in the way and say, why do I see that? I can get rid of it right now if I want to. So you're allowing this covering power. I was talking about that at satsang yesterday. Push the greens come away because you're not allowing it anymore. I wish I had done that earlier. It comes dancing back and distortion happens. So you have to do it again. But since you say, it comes back again, I give up. See? Then how good are you for spiritual life, and how qualified are you for enlightenment if you just give up after one effort? See? I was just saying it, right? Just think it right now. There's the Om, there's the Jyoti, there's the scriptures, there's the testament of the seers and awakened souls. As long as I had that thought, I was enlightened. As soon as I stopped thinking that way, covering power came back over. And now, so constancy and immediacy. Constancy is immediacy. You don't just walk away from your zafu when you're sitting zazen. See, sit for zazen a long time and say, okay, one day of zazen's passed. We have a few more days. I'll come back tomorrow and start meditating again. So you walk away from your zafu and you forget everything. So you're like, I'm just going home now. Or I'm going to bed, or I'm going to have food. But no, you have to keep that same attention that you were able to muster on your sitting posture and your mind's posture, your mental asana, after you leave the zafu and come back in the same place where you left it, so that there's no difference anymore. That's constancy. Constancy is seeing non-difference in everything. And Holy Mother said about that, does God only exist when you close your eyes in meditation and then cease to exist when you open them? So she's on that very same page with constancy, being immediacy. People fall off for so many reasons. So I'm talking generally about people falling off the whole path, but specifically I'm talking about people falling off their own awareness every minute. You see, that's what a party is. It's people planning to fall off of their awareness by going to a party. They plan stupidity for themselves. They plan ignorance to overtake them. One of my favorite words in English, dumbfounded. Because dumb comes and finds them. So they're falling off. And the worst kind of falling off would be, say, an alcoholic. Falling off his vow not to drink anymore. So that's really, very dark and deep samskara. But people are just like that with their desires for enjoyments. There's a kind of obsession they have, and they'll give up their awareness to do that. I don't think I want to be aware anymore. I want to be clouded. I don't think I want enlightenment. I want to live another lifetime. So I'm preparing for it right now as we speak, to be born again in ignorance. See. Recognize the limitations of name and form in nature. These are mental things that she wants you to do to destroy karma vinasha. Perceive the suffering-ridden nature of relative existence. Who does that sound like? Lord Buddha, for sure. There is suffering, number one. First noble truth. Subdue sense life by noting the dangers of pleasure and enjoyment, as we were just talking about. They cause you to fall away from your awareness. Be austere and say, I won't have that right now. I'm going to keep my pure conscious awareness away from pleasure and enjoyment. Not only because pleasure and enjoyment leads to sorrow and pain, that should be enough for me. But basically, I want to keep my own pristine awareness intact. And if I give rise to that, there's a risk that I'll lose it. So I'll do this austerity for myself. Break free of the cocoon of family life and mundane human convention. Scrutinize the link to one's ancestors and break the chain of rebirth with them. I'm gone and gone forever. Have no hope for me, for the world forevermore. And Buddha and Vivekananda very much sounding the same about that. It's to break all ties with family life and convention. Inspect the individual thoughts and habits and connect them to actions in past lifetimes. Why am I the way I am? See, as I was just saying, why do I think that? Why do I see that? I should be able to do away with it right now with my own awareness, my own pristine awareness. Meditate with the specific aim to dissolve all mental residue that binds the mind to relativity. So, what do they call those things? New Year's resolutions, or they call them bucket lists. See? Here, I give this to you. A bucket list for enlightenment in this lifetime, for all of you. Take it in, consider it, experiment with it even. Accomplish some of it, maybe. Maybe you already have. Maybe I'm preaching to the choir. I hope so. But whatever the case may be, there might be some hidden karmas in there that need to be subjected to the fire of wisdom and intelligence. Stoke that fire. A beautiful chart. Let's see, did we read the quote? Yeah. Perhaps one practices japa and austerity in this life. In the next life, one intensifies the spiritual mood, and in the following, advances it even further. That's 3 lifetimes, by the way. Thus, spiritual evolution goes on. The moment that one's karmas come to an end, one realizes God. That is one's last birth. This, plus the practice of spiritual discipline and time, are the factors in the attainment of spiritual knowledge. There they are, the 3 factors of leading to enlightenment, as given by Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi in this day and age to all sincere seekers. Very beautiful. So these are more and more sobering. I'd say at the top of the chart, things, I can do that. I have done that. I've done that to a certain extent. I can do better. Whatever the case may be, when you read them, it comes down here. It begins to sober you as to what you have to accomplish yet, so that your karmas will come to an end. You'll be free right at that moment. And also it shows us who we're looking at when we look at Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa and Holy Mother. It's hard to even call them perfected beings. They're not siddhas, they're siddhas of the siddhas. They're the perfect of the most perfect. In fact, imperfection doesn't even occur to the mind when you see them, even when you see their form, to speak of their formless nature. They're so much at one with that non-dual reality, pure conscious awareness, timeless, deathless consciousness, however you want to put it. So those 2 charts I wanted to accomplish today, to get us started on some of the teachings of constancy, perseverance. And we find out we brought up another word there, immediacy, trying to make this perseverance was another key that she used. See, stick-to-itiveness, people have said when they've heard this in English and nowadays. Oh, you mean stick-to-itiveness? Yeah, I've got to work on that. So what's the opposite of that is procrastination. You hear that too. People say, oh, I should be doing more, but I'm so really infers that they're procrastinating about attaining this higher level of awareness that enlightenment is so famous for handing out to the qualified. If you have put time and practice under your belt, as they say, it's in your past progress, then you have that to fall back on. Then you're well along your way. So at that point, that perseverance and constancy becomes all the more important to you, because many people have fallen from the goal at the penultimate step. I have a chart I'll show you next week called 7 Stages Towards Kaivalya, how a person in yoga, how a person reaches Kaivalya, which means I have no doubt from now on that nature is a dream and I'm separate from it. That's Kaivalya. All the beauties of nature are not me. And I finally come to that realization. Nature's in me. I'm not in nature. And it's the other way people are thinking. They're born in nature. They live in nature. They die in nature. They're reborn in nature. Nature is everything to them, Prakriti. But what happened to the Purusha that the ancient seer Kapila talked about? Wait a minute. You're leaving out the most important part, the sentient part. Nature's insentient. You yourself are the sentient. Doesn't that sound like the beginnings to self-realization, the way we call it nowadays, way back thousands of years ago, when even Krishna in the Gita was saying, of all great sages, I was Kapila, you see. So you look back to a great soul that, in the same way, later, Patanjali, father of yoga, whom we're quoting so much today, was talking about the import of Purusha getting mastery over Prakriti. Because he said in his day and age, we probably think around 150 years after Jesus in India, he was looking and seeing how people had this attachment and these problems because they believed they were nature. They believed in nature as the only reality. In Ramakrishna order, we call that worldliness. That's just rank worldliness. You have the rank materialism, but there's also a rank worldliness that you don't know anything beyond the Burloka. You don't know anything beyond the physical world and matter. And there are people by the millions who are hunched down in that position. What an asana to hold, to be a materialist all this time, and how much it removes from the quotient of your bid for freedom and enlightenment, and the vision of the truth that awaits you, the truth that has no other side to it. It's just indivisible. Since there are a few minutes to go, it occurs to me that I could start us off on the beginning of next week's class. And because I was saying this is so sobering, that you can put it kind of in one way and ask you all who are looking on maybe to look at this chart, the top third of it, and see what's called Moha Manomaya in India. It's just people, the soul aging, turning into an old man, falling into death's hand, coming out into the Mother Nature's hands as a fetus, then as a baby and growing up and passing on into a young age and so forth. Like Shankara said, when I was a baby, I was attached to my mother's breast. When I was a young boy, I was attached to sport. When I was a young woman, I was attached. When I was a young man, I was attached to a young woman. And when I was old, I was attached to anxiety because death was coming. But to the Supreme Brahman, alas, I was never attached. See, all this whole cycle over and over and over again, even put in a fine illustration by someone, it's just a further proof, if you should need so, that the risks of birth, growth, and old age and rebirth are upon us all the time. And that constancy of your higher intelligence makes this into a dream. The lack of that constancy turns this into a nightmare. See? Turns it into a nightmare full of, let's say, war and hunger and starvation and displaced millions and evil politicians. And do I need to inform anyone about this? I'm not even an expert on that. I'm an expert, as it were, on the opposite side of it, how to see it as a dream. But I am also saying that once it becomes a dream, then you become a conscious dreamer and you wake up. So there's a very beautiful image here, for one thing. And we'll look at all this then. We'll show Holy Mother's chart at the beginning of next Sunday's class, if you can all be on hand. And that karma vinasha bucket list I was showing you will nicely lead us into all of this. But I'm going to sing you to the end of the class now, because this up here is actually 3 verses from the Avadut and his beautiful song. Samsara satatilata nachame kadachit samtosha santati suko nachame kadachit agyana bandhanamidam nachame kadachit Agyanamritam samarasam gaganopamoham samsarasantatirajo nachamekadachit santapa santatitamo nachame vikaro Sattvam svadharma janakam nachame mikaro Gyanamritam samarasam gaganopamoham Santapadukka janako navidi kadachit Santapa yoga janitam namanakadachit Yasmadaham katiriyam nachame kadachit Gyanamritam samarasam gaganopamoham Gyanamritam samarasam gaganopamoham Om Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Pado Padme Toyeshitva Pranamami Mahur Mahur Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Hari Om